Welcome to the Hanley Effect, a podcast by the Hanley Foundation designed to educate, change minds, and save lives. Our goal is to inspire you, showcase our innovations, and change the conversation about addiction and mental health. Join us as we unravel stories of resilience, recovery, and hope.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Hanley Effect. I'm John Dyben.
I'm Rachel Docekal.
Dr. D, this is our moment for witty banter, which is always hilarious and awesome and super fun.
I think so.
And I want to get right actually into talking to our guests because I don't want to waste a second.
Well, except for the fact that I just have to tell our listeners that our guest is from Texas. And right before we started, he said that he bleeds barbecue.
That's the way.
I want to bleed barbecue.
I mean, listen, I'm ready. I'm just saying we need to invest in more, grills at Hanley.
We do.
Okay.
we do.
Our guest today is Michael Molthan, and we're just going to call him The Rock, M2 The Rock. and we're going to let Michael really tell about his story. But, Michael's a man who has worked in real estate in Texas, which that right there says a lot about a person. Mm-hmm. But Michael is also a person who has been dedicating a lot of his life to recovery and to helping people understand and find recovery. And he's got a unique picture. And so we're really thrilled to have you on here. Michael, we just want to say welcome and thank you for being here today.
Thank y'all so much. And wow, what great energy. I can just feel the spirit, just right through the camera with both of y'all. And I'm so grateful I bleed blood and barbecue today. I used to bleed opiates, alcohol, and just pure pain and suffering, and that's what the past was like. But yes, I have by default and by the grace of God have committed my entire life to helping others through my story and through seeing life today through an entirely different perspective other than mine, right?
I would love to hear that, as much as you can about, first of all, what does your life look like now? You're really involved, in your community and your work, and share a little bit about what you do and what your life looks like. But then I'd love to hear about your journey. What got you here to where you are today? Well,
people who follow me, and obviously y'all been, checking me out and following what I do. My whole life, I lived this double life. I was seeking visible things to try to fix my invisible problems my entire life. And because of great people like the two of y'all and professionals that today I realize that I was literally trying to ease the pain and suffering from unresolved trauma. And today my focus is to stop focusing on addiction, but focus on why the addiction. And the addiction for me was a result of unresolved real life trauma. And, it's amazing because what we do, and I say we, the three of us, and many people who do what we do, this is hard. This is really hard. I mean, when I was 10 years old, I didn't dream about being a speaker, having my own show and all this stuff, trying to help drug addicts and alcoholics. I wanted to be the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. I wanted to be a fireman. I wanted to be a policeman. Maybe today I don't want to be a quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, but that's a whole other topic.
I thought it, but I didn't say it. So I'm glad you said it.
But I do bleed blue too. I bleed a lot of things, I guess. That's kind of the hashtag for the show. But like just this morning, and is that when I share, I'm transparent, I'm vulnerable, I'm my true authentic self, because that's what helps people, right? Yeah. Using the I statements, my personal relationship. So just this morning, Monday morning, waking up, I was like, oh man, we got to do this again. What am I going to do? And then out of the clear blue, my phone reminder goes off and says, you had the Hanley Effect podcast in 15 minutes. I'm like, what? And so I call Rachel. I'm like going, is this real? Because I've had some people like trolls, like get in my calendar and they put in like to be on a podcast. And it was it was a scam. So and so I just couldn't put it together because you know why I couldn't put it together? Really, this is what it's all about. Is because I was thinking about me this morning. What am I going to, I got to go hit this again today. And so I thank y'all so much for this because we've been doing this for 5 minutes and 11 seconds. And for 5 minutes and 11 seconds, it's put me in the safest place in the world. And that's right here, right now in the present moment, because right now I'm serving and giving to y'all and giving to your listeners. And I feel good again. I'm back.
So good.
I love that. And it's, I think about, there's a time in my life when, I first came across Alcoholics Anonymous and the big book and such as a student, as a psychology student. I had to learn about it, and I had to, and I had been a teetotaler, never, most of my life. And there was a point in my mid-20s, I was going through a real crisis, and I had run out of books to read, and I found myself reading through, some of the stories in this book about addiction, about people's stories. And what I realized is I'm like, man, I don't have, I'm not putting anything into my system, and I relate to this. Like these problems I relate to. And I've one of your messages that I've been seeing as I've been trolling you a little bit is you have this concept that the problems of addiction are a little bit more universal maybe than people think. And the solutions are not just the kind of, the solutions are good for people struggling with all sorts of issues.
That's so good what you just said. That gave me goosebumps because that's my passion. That's my mission, is that everyone is an addict. To remove this label and this stigma, because so many people like myself, I had a hard time. I knew deep within that I had a problem. I knew I had a problem with chemicals, but especially back then, it's getting better. Praise God. It's getting better. But back then it was like leprosy. You didn't want to say you had mental health problems, or you didn't want to say you were a drug addict or an alcoholic, because automatically you think of the $2 needle junkie sitting underneath the bridge.
Right.
Well, today, my message is the only difference between me and the man underneath the bridge, who I became. I had a very successful home builder, owned my own company for 20 years and became this guy. And I realized that the only difference was one thing, and that was the bridge. And so I've really shut my brain down and listened to the universe and my God of my understanding and my faith is that we're all addicts. So with that said, what is addiction? Okay. And you talked about the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and their foundation is it's a spiritual program, not a religious program. And so I started thinking about it, and the definition of addiction is simply this. Addiction is the street name for spiritual stronghold. Okay. That kind of felt good. All right. So spiritual stronghold. So I broke it down. Addiction is it's a person. It's a place. It's a thing. And here's the scary one, or a thought that has become my source. So with that said, let me repeat. Addiction is a person, place, thing, or a thought that has become my source.
Wow.
So with that said is we're all addicts. We are all seeking on a daily basis visible things to try to fix my invisible problems. Okay. So with that said, when I'm awake, I'm in full blown relapse. Okay. But here's recovery. And here's what I guarantee you, my research with y'all at the Hanley Effect is that recovery is recognizing these behaviors when I'm doing that. Okay. Is recognizing it, going, okay, wait a minute. Why do I want to go buy a blue shirt with a white piping zip up? Why do I want to go buy another one? Well, because I want to change the way I felt. I don't need one. I have one. Okay, I have one. It is those little things in recognizing that, because I used to go buy a pair of Nikes, and I would buy 2 pair of them because in my head I thought, what if they discontinued this style? I mean, that's how sick my thinking got. And so,
but that is so not uncommon in our society.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so when people say, and I love what you said, because that's my passion, is people going, you know what? I don't drink alcohol and do drugs, but listening to you, Michael, is that, man, I can totally relate to what you're saying. Yeah. And I love that you said that. But yeah, it's a thinking problem, and it's all a result of trying to process fear. Mm-hmm. It's all that, for me. It was like I had very educated, very successful from a worldly culture view, but inside down. And so, I love helping people who still have everything, call them high bottoms, I love helping people or hearing stories of high bottoms who listen to something that's said and the light goes on and they just stop drinking.
There's so many things that as I started to listen to some of the things that you had to say and started to stalk you a little bit and read some things that one of the things that we talk about a lot in Hanley and because, when we think about, as a program, and we've got, we got all these doctors around and therapists mm-hmm. around, you got all these people around. The purpose of this, whole center that we have is to help people reconnect spiritually, mm-hmm. to help foster spiritual connection. And so what that means, we talk a lot about the pursuit of happiness versus the pursuit of peace. Mm-hmm. And people will say, again and again, I just want to be happy. Well, what is happy? Happy means I feel good based on my external circumstances. So if I don't feel good, I can buy the 2 blue shirts, or I can mm-hmm. buy the 2 sets of shoes, or I can go buy the new car, or I can have the drink, or I can do the thing, and I'm going to feel better for a second, right? Because whatever you think will make you happy probably will for a second. Right. But what we found again and again and again is what people really, truly, fundamentally are looking for is peace.
Right.
And that's that when I can look you in the eye and say, there are things in my life I'm not happy about right now, but I am okay. I am whole. I am anchored. I don't need to run to find something to fix me. And that's what you're describing.
That's right. And we're all chasing that. So I love using time, because when I was incarcerated, we can get into that, time became such a big deal to me, right? It's always been a big deal to me, time, being in construction, being on time. But like, when I look at the clock now, we've been on this for 12 minutes and 43 seconds, right? Mm-hmm. Is it safe? Let me ask y'all both the question. Do y'all feel a little more present now than you did 13 minutes ago?
100%.
Of course.
And the reason why is because we're in the pocket, and we're out of self.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, y'all are really wanting to hear what I have to say, and I'm really wanting to hear what you have to say. And by the end of this show, I will have no clue what I said, which is good.
Yes, sure. That's right.
Which is good, because if I script this, we're all going to prison. Right. And, and that's what's so beautiful about it is because we're all chasing that safe place and is being here, right now. And so how do we accomplish that? It's real simple. Serve. And that's why y'all been around for 40 years, is because you just continue to serve.
So powerful.
Yeah. One of the things that we talk about, as part of this recovery process with our patients is finding a purpose. Yeah. So this is not, sort of how we think about Western medicine, right? I'm going to take this pill and I'm going to feel better. That is not recovery. But having purpose in your life, whether you feel happy that day or not, helps you get to that feeling of peacefulness. And that's what I'm hearing from you, that your purpose is outside of you, that when you're looking inward, what you need to do is have a sense of purpose, which is to serve others.
It's so well said. And, the question, how do we find our purpose? Okay. Using my personal experience is that I always felt I had a purpose. And I think we all do. I think we always feel like we have a purpose, right? And sometimes real deep down inside, we know what that purpose is. And we go like, yeah, but I want to be the lead singer for the greatest band of all time.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I'm going to put my purpose kind of over here in a box and see how it can work out. I knew at a young age, growing up in a family that was very successful, it was the country club family. And it was very confusing, but behind closed doors, it was very confusing. Okay. It didn't match with outside the house. And so inside the house, and I knew at a very young age, I was always trying to make my parents happy. I'll never forget the first time I made them laugh and they said, you should be an actor. You know what I mean? All I heard was a compliment. And that's what I held on to. So I was always trying to be the funny guy and make them laugh, because as I look back, I didn't know it then, but looking back now through God's perspective is that I was just trying to ease their pain and suffering. My mom was majorly depressed. I don't have the power to diagnose anybody with addiction. It's the only disease that has to be self-diagnosed, right? And so, but I saw a lot of the similarities. It was very evident to me. But I was trying to ease her pain and suffering. I did that my whole life. I was trying to make everybody else around me feel good, but yet I was dying. I was dying. So once I got completely honest with myself while incarcerated, and had this spiritual awakening, I am a faith-based guy. I am a strong believer in Jesus Christ. I am a huge believer in that. Not the world Jesus, not the culture Jesus, not the religious Jesus, the real one. And that's a big difference, that personal relationship. It works for me. And I never thought I'd be talking like this. You know what I mean? But I want to show the world who Christ is, not tell them. He's not my marketing tool. I want to show it. And so finding my purpose through this, I look back today like, how this all, I didn't plan this. But in real estate, in business, I was a speaker. I would speak to the large real estate groups and I would educate people on high-end luxury building. And now God has taken that asset and turned it into this through years of in the field training of battling addiction, that I don't look at my past as a victim. I go, wow, I got to tell the Hanley Effect this great story of I realized the role that I played in the situation and how God's using it today to speak about it to help others. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes
yes.
I had a professor who freshman year of college, and he had such an impact on me that the freshman year of college was a long time ago for me. Right? But
have white hair.
Yeah, it's true. Last year, I tracked him down. I found him. And he's actually out in Texas, and I tracked him down. And decades later, told him how much he meant to me, and there were certain things that he taught me. And the one thing that he taught me is he said that to this day, decades later, and he reminded me on the phone last year when I talked to him, and it just brought me to tears. God wastes nothing.
No.
And so there's this idea that whether you come from that Christian perspective, whether you come from struggling with figuring out what higher power is and what God is, if there's an openness to something greater than yourself, this idea that God wastes nothing. So even the things that were awful, you're talking about, transformation in the Christian tradition. You talk about redemption, right? So even those things that were so hard, they become new.
Right.
I love that. It's beautiful.
Well, God is good. I mean, and it's, for people who are watching this and for people who are like, oh my God, this God deal. I get it. I get it. I get it. Thank God in a 12-step program, I protect the anonymity of all their groups. I don't wave any flags, but I do talk about the 12 steps. And thank God for 1 and 2, Because see, the whole world, and they mean it with such great passion. The whole world is trying to help people with substance abuse disorder, where step 1 is step 3. Okay. Made a decision, you just got to give it to God. And it's like, you're not hearing me. And it's so cool to see how God works, because the people who saved my life were just as wretched as me. You know what I mean? And they worked these 12 steps, and step 1 is just getting honest. And step 2, I start getting some hope. I get some hope because there's a connection, and that connection is what y'all are doing right now. And it's this. So when you're in a support group meeting and someone starts saying, you look at the person, I watch people in the groups, and I watch the newcomer, and it's kind of like this. And then they kind of do this. And I love watching the connection, and they start doing this.
Yep.
Right.
And that's that connection.
That's it. And so, and there's a couple of doctors and psychiatrists that I've talked to, and they say, Michael, my goal is to get them to step 3 as fast as I can. And then the medication goes away. You see what I'm saying?
And what I want to do real quick, because I know there's a lot of people listening or watching that know what you're talking about. And then there are some people that are going 1 to 3. And what in the world is that talk? What are we talking about? And so can you tell us just real quick, those first 3 steps, you're talking about the first 3 steps of the 12 steps, and that idea of, God help me is actually not the first. No, it's not the first place. What can you just tell us for a second? Sure. What are you talking about?
So step 1 is we admitted that we were powerless over blank. Okay.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that our life has become unmanageable. So let's put in the blank alcohol for this discussion. So we admitted, because it's a we program. We admitted that we were powerless over alcohol, that my life had become unmanageable. What does that mean? What's powerless mean? Well, I'm a man. I'm not powerless over anything. I really thought that. A person with a high IQ, I'm not powerless over anything. Well, being powerless over alcohol is when you wake up in the morning, if you wake up, or if you went to sleep, but the next morning you say, I'll tell you a true story. My first arrest, I said, I'm never doing this again. I've arrived in a place that I said I would never go. And I meant it. I meant it with every ounce of blood in my body. And I got bonded out, and I got drunk and high that night.
Right.
That's powerless.
Right.
Unmanageable. My life was completely unmanageable. Every bad thing that was happening to me, self-inflicted bad things that was happening to me, the common denominator was alcohol and drugs were involved in every one of them. And me. Yep. Alcohol, drugs. So my life was unmanageable. Step 2 is we came to believe there's a power greater than ourselves to restore us to sanity. I love in support group meetings when I hear this, they immediately start talking about religion and God. That's great. There's nothing wrong with that. Has nothing to do with God. It has everything to do with the feeling of hope. That's the spiritual principle behind it. So what does that look like? When we're attending support group meetings and we're doing these 90 meetings in 90 days, and about 60 days into it, man, we start feeling good. We start feeling some hope. There's a connection. I'm with my people. They understand me. And also we're detoxing. So there's a physical effect taking place, right?
Right.
That's right.
I speak about this a lot. I truly believe that step 2 is the most dangerous step in early recovery based off my personal experience, because I started physically feeling good and I felt some hope. I started getting comfortable, right? And so I would go, well, I feel good. And then the disease comes in, the enemy going, I don't need to go to a meeting today. I feel good.
And why?
It adds up, and I don't go to step 3 and I relapse, and I don't know why I did it. And our family's saying, how did this happen? You were doing so good. And inside I'm mad. And the real reason is I don't know, because I don't have the tools to process fear, anger, resentment, and all of that as a result of working all the steps.
Yes. That is so great. I love that perspective. It's so, and you hear people talk a lot about early relapse being about a first step issue, but that idea that it's, I can even come to a point of really knowing that I'm powerless and that it causes unmanageability. But when I start to feel good, why go to step 3, which is that making that decision to turn my care of my life, my will over to a power greater than myself.
And Michael, we see that. We see that at Hanley. People come in, they detox, they're with us usually for about 2 weeks. And then we hear, yeah, I'm good. I can do this. I feel really good. I'm good.
I can be a counselor.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to teach. I could teach all these groups. Right.
Yeah,
yes.
That's right. That's right. And, we certainly Hanley is a facility where if somebody chooses to leave, they have that choice. They can leave. Very few do, but the ones that do almost inevitably will be back.
That's right. Be back. I spoke to some people, a board, I can't remember what it was, on treatment centers, and the clients that give you the worst reviews are the ones that you really dig into and do an autopsy on that, because that means you did your job.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? They actually, the seed was really planted with them. The ones who are screaming and complaining the most, look at it through a different perspective and say, what are they really saying? Our food is actually really good, and this isn't an issue problem. Okay. And it's like, and I also said the most deadly, tool at treatment centers is the phone, because it's a perfect example of having expectations, which always sets us up for resentments. That is the best training area ever for the counselors, is watch them work that phone, and it's just, it's great to have that. But Rachel, back to your point, as far as finding our purpose and all that, I found my purpose going back in time and really doing a spiritual autopsy on the stuff that used to make me so mad, in addiction, and look at it through a different perspective, going, I see why this happened. And so that's why when I come back, like the phone deal, I remember being at treatment centers and, I'd get on the phone and I always had expectations. I love you. Okay, well, you just take care of yourself over there and do what they say. Wait a minute. You didn't say you love me back. I love you. Okay, I love you. I love you. Everything's good. Yeah, you're not saying it the way I want to hear. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you start beating that phone off the wall, and then you leave AMA.
That's right.
Over a phone call.
Yeah, because I have to go have that conversation. Yeah.
Right. And so, but that's how back to your question of finding my purpose of sharing those personal stories.
Yeah.
You mentioned the spiritual autopsy. Can you tell us a little bit about what does that mean to you? What is a spiritual autopsy?
Good question. For the record, I just made that word up right here on the show.
I think it's
right here on the Hanley Effect. Yes,
but it's a great word picture.
Yeah,
and I'm thinking about my own life. So tell me when you think about that.
The homes that I used to build were real. The air was real thin. I mean, I built these huge, complicated projects. And in construction, you learn by mistakes, and it costs money. And so after a project would get done, I'd go back in my head and I would review and learn from it, not to make that mistake again. In life, what I do now is that looking at past trauma, working a program of recovering, and having a great sponsor and a mentor and a team around me, I have this luxury to go back in the things that happened to me that were not okay. Okay. These really painful things in the past, because I wanted God to tell me the answer of why would you allow this to happen? And when I do that, I go, wow, I see why, because I get to use that experience to share with others this story that I had. It's like me telling a story about a great movie I just saw. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
but I get to share it not as a victim, but as a victor. You know what I mean? And to summarize, to answer your question, is today I realize is that my past trauma today is my gift. It's my gift. And
what a beautiful picture.
Yeah. And to talk about true forgiveness. And I'll never forget with my sponsor is that he goes, all right, your grandfather sexually abused you your entire childhood until he died. And it was criminal. It's not okay. All right. But what role did you play in it? And I'm like, what? And I had to look at that. And I realized that the role that I played in this resentment is I chose to hold on to the resentment. That's the role I played in it. So we talk about forgiveness a lot. Wow. The sooner that I can accept the role that I play in something, the forgiveness happens. The forgiveness happens. And what happened is when that happened, I went and spoke at an event, a treatment center actually here in Texas. And I didn't know what I was going to talk about. I never do. Just like with y'all, I just
right.
Okay. And I go into the men's bathroom. There's 2 wall urinals. There's a guy in one wall urinal using it. There's one empty. There's a stall that the door shuts and there's a guy in there finishing up. My entire life, this was one of the things I would always wait for that to open to shut the door behind me because that is a symptom of sexual abuse. Never shared that before in my life, right? I go in there and I share this story. There's a big whiteboard and I draw the bathroom. Okay. And I share this story out of forgiveness to my grandfather. But I said, I just got to share this with y'all because the solution for me to get well is I got to talk about it in solution mode, not pour me a drink. It's like, I got to share with y'all this finding that I found. It's like an architectural finding. And as I share this, a gentleman on the front row is crying. All right. And he hugs me afterwards. He says, you just saved my life. He says, I didn't think anybody did that except me. It gets better. I'm driving home and it hit me that I realized that as a result of forgiving my grandfather and talking so freely about that, he's actually using my grandfather to work through me to help others. Oh, it gets better. 2 weeks later, I'm getting thousands of emails all over the country from inmates all over the country. This man that this story touched so much, all right, his father is the bigwig at Securus Technologies, which is government communication to all the prisons, jails, courthouses, White House, everything. He put the M2 The Rock show on every tablet in every prison, in every jail in the entire country. So they will hear this show on every tablet. It's behind the walls. Now I have so many people trying to come through me to get behind the walls as a result of me accepting the role that I played in a resentment towards my grandfather.
What a beautiful story. And I so appreciate you sharing that specifically because there's a lot of people that have seen over the years that come to that point and there is, when they even hear the question, it's, what do you mean? What role did I have as a little kid? And as a little kid, you had zero role, right? Zero responsibility. Right. But the question is right here, right now.
By the way, this is apple juice. I love apple juice.
Listen, for those that are watching, I'm glad I didn't even think about it, but I'm glad you said that.
It's like I'm drinking scotch. It's apple juice.
I mean, that would be some next level stuff.
I'm healed.
Right. Fixed. But the beauty of that is that, it is, even the wounds that we have, that we are completely innocent of the actual moment that we can still find ourselves where as adults, we're holding ourselves captives to that. Yeah. And that there is a process of healing. Thank you so much for sharing that, Michael.
Thank you. Yeah. And that's so Rachel, back to what my purpose is. I just share with you my purpose. My purpose is being vulnerable. Okay. Being vulnerable because here's another. When I got my very first mugshot, I was devastated. 26 mugshots later. Okay. 26 mugshots later, now looking at it through God's perspective and not mine, it's now my marketing tool. It's not my marketing tool. It's just, it is.
I love that.
God wastes nothing.
Yes.
He wins at everything. He trumps everybody. He trumps Satan every single day.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so it is my job. I'm the guy who's supposed to let us know when we're coming to the end and we have to start wrapping things up, and we're there. I really hope you'll come visit us. I'd love to,
Michael,
to see you and spend time with you.
Hanley. We sit on 10 acres of botanical gardens in Palm Beach County. It is beautiful, and the grounds are sacred. They
truly are.
It is a healing place that we would love to have you.
I mean this. If you will, after this show, you text me some dates. The next 2 months is perfect timing for my fiance and I. I can't travel. She's got to come with me if that's okay.
Great.
I love it.
Great.
Come on.
But
come on.
We would love, we can leave this afternoon. That's how flexible we are the next 2 months. So
I love it.
Fantastic.
We're going to make it happen.
Love your spirit.
And we love to take the last minute to give you the last minute and think about there are people who are struggling that listen to this, people who are in recovery, people who are recovered, people who are professionals and non-professionals, a wide range of people. And I just like thinking about them. What is one thing that you would like to leave our audience with from you today?
It's real simple. It's 3 words, and it's, I don't know. It's okay to say, I don't know. I don't know why I drink. I don't know why I do drugs. If your family members or whoever are like, why do you do this? Why do you do drugs? Why do you drink? Why do you get angry all the time? Why are you depressed? What can we do to help? The answer is, I don't know. And then call the Hanley Effect. And I mean, I've never done that before. I had this gift as a result of trauma. I could read people real quick because I'd never let anybody close to me. Today, it's my asset, and I can read things real quick by the feeling of the spirit. I feel the 2 of y'all. I mean, call the Hanley Effect, call someone and just reach out and say, I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know why I do the things I do. And that person would go, I promise you that person is going to go, I can relate. I love
it.
So good.
Michael, thank you so much for that. And thank you
this
for
was amazing.
All of this time. So grateful to have you here. Dr. D, this has been a blast. Thank you for being here and letting me be with you.
Dr. D, this was great. This was great.
And then for everybody who's listening or watching, we want to thank you. And we will see you next time on The Hanley Effect.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for joining us for the Hanley Effect. To learn more about our programs, visit hanleyfoundation.org or call 844-502-4673.